Ready to shop?
Hi, I'm President. Get a bottle of water. I'm just going to have a little bit of stand.
Great.
Yes, you got started late today, so the day you started from there, all right.
This is just your, this is updated.
Oh, thank you.
Please rise.
Please be seated. Welcome back, members of the board. Dr. Credential.
Hi, I'm Precious. Speak to call Dr. Charles Siebert.
Dr. Amnesty, come up and stand right before the clerk as well.
State your name.
Charles S. Siebert, Jr.
Swear or affirm testimony that you shall give.
Yes, I do.
Says he records.
Good afternoon. Doctor, can you tell ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what is your profession?
I'm a forensic pathologist working as a medical examiner.
And are you a duly licensed physician surgeon?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and what states are you licensed?
I'm currently licensed in New Jersey and Pennsylvania.
Have you ever been licensed in any other state?
Yes, I have an expired or inactive license in Florida.
How long have you been licensed to practice your profession?
Since 1995.
And can you explain your educational background to the jury?
Sure. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in biology with honors in biopsychology. I received that at William Patterson College in New Jersey. I then went to medical school at the University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey, which is now part of Rutgers University. Completing my medical degree, I did a residency program in anatomic pathology. I did that at the same university in combination with St. Barnabas University, where I was co-chief. I then did a fellowship in forensic pathology, which I did at the Dade County Medical Examiner's Office in Miami, Florida, under Dr. Joe Davis. I'm board certified in both anatomic and forensic pathology.
Okay, and when you completed your fellowship in forensic pathology in Florida, did you stay in Florida for a while?
Yes, I did.
And were you employed in various roles with the medical examiner's office in multiple districts in the state of Florida?
Yes.
And that, what were the years that you were in Florida?
I was in Florida from 95 when I started my fellowship, and I left in January or the end of 2007.
And during the course of that time, did you in certain districts hold the title of Chief Medical Examiner?
Yes.
Ron, again, I don't mean to interrupt, I was just like Dr. Siebert. I'm going to continue at the agencies.
Just briefly, Judge, if I may. You are currently the Assistant Medical Examiner for Camden, Gloucester, and Salem counties, correct?
That's correct.
In New Jersey?
Yes.
How long have you held that position?
I've got, the position I hold now, I have since 2014, but I have worked there as a per diem doctor for several years before that.
Okay. And did you also have experience with the State Medical Examiner's Office?
Yes, I did.
And that was from 2008 until 2011?
That's correct.
And can you, are you familiar with CFS Forensic Services?
Yes.
How are you familiar with that?
That is my company. I'm the president.
And what services does that company provide?
I provide forensic services to private citizens and to expert testimony and private autopsies for different people that need my services.
The certifications that you testified to previously with regard to anatomic pathology and forensic pathology, is that over and above your license to practice medicine?
Yes, it is.
I just want to ask you about some of the memberships that you have in professional organizations. Are you a member of the International Homicide Investigators Association?
Yes, I am.
And are you on the board of directors for the New Jersey Homicide Investigators Association?
Yes.
And you've been a member of that group since 2009, correct?
Correct.
Altogether, how many years' experience do you have as a medical examiner?
17.
And does that work include performing autopsies?
Yes, it does.
How many autopsies have you performed over the years, approximately?
To date, it's probably around 5,000 autopsies and examinations.
Judge, I would move Dr. Siebert in as an expert in anatomic forensic pathology.
All right, again, members of the jury, this witness is being called as an expert. As a general rule, witnesses can testify only as facts known by them. This rule ordinarily does not permit the opinion of the witness to be received as evidence. However, an exception to the rule exists in the case of an expert witness who may give his opinion as to any matter in which he is versed, which is material to the case medical terminology. An expert witness is a witness who has some special knowledge, skill, experience, or training that is not possessed by the juror, but who thus is able to provide assistance to the jury in understanding the evidence presented and determining the facts of the case. You're not bound by such expert's opinion, but you should consider each opinion and give it the weight to which you deem it is entitled. Whether that be great or slight, or you may reject it. In examining each opinion, you may consider the reasons given for it, if any, and you may also consider the qualifications and credibility of the expert. With that, please proceed.
Thank you. Dr. Siebert, were you asked to consult on a post-mortem examination on a 3-year-old boy identified as Brendan Creato?
Yes, it was.
And did you do that?
Yes.
And what day did you examine Brendan Creato?
That was October 15th of 2015.
And at the conclusion of your examination, after you had reviewed everything, did you prepare a report?
Yes, I did.
And would it assist you in your testimony if you could have your report with you?
Yes.
While you testify, I'm sorry. Judge, I had this marked for ID 377. I'm sorry. I think so. You want to have more? I'll share it. I'll say it. Okay. Okay, Dr. Siebert, I'm going to ask you to direct your attention to that Thursday. When you're being brought in to consult like this, what was your task on that day? What were you looking to accomplish?
The goal typically in a consultation of this sort is, I'm called in by a medical examiner, in this case my colleague, Dr. Flanagan, to re-examine or to look over a body that he's already previously autopsied, to look for any signs of injury or disease, to aid him and myself with determining the cause and the manner of death.
Right. And what was your understanding at the time of your examination? What was your understanding of the circumstances of Brendan's death?
The circumstances that I knew at that point were that this child was found on the bank of a creek or a stream area. He was slightly up on the side of the bank with his head towards the bank area. It was at that time out of the water, but it does appear the water could have been higher at some point because of the way silt had deposited on the parts of his body, and one side of his hair was wet. So it appears that the water could have been higher where he was lying. He was dressed in pajamas. He was found in the morning. And what was unique was, or unusual, was that the soles of his socks, the bottom of his socks, were clean. There was no indication that there was any scratches to them or dirt to them. So it was suspicious circumstance on how the body arrived at the creek or that scene at that time.
And before you conducted your examination of the body, did you see photographs of the scene where Brendan had been located?
Yes, I did.
So what specifically are you looking for during your examination in this case?
Again, I'm looking at the body, doing an external examination on the body. It had been previously autopsied, so there was incisions made into it. But I'm looking at the external portion of the body, looking for any signs of injury or disease. I'm reviewing the internal cavities that have already been opened, looking again for any signs of injury or disease. And then I would examine the organs, which in this case they were previously examined to begin with, but I would go through them and looking at them again, just again, trying to help determine the cause and the manner of death.
So you've indicated, and obviously we know, the body had already been subjected to an autopsy. So can you describe what the condition of Brendan's body was when you first saw it?
Sure. Well, his body was new, it was received new because his clothing was removed during the first autopsy. There was what we call a Y-shaped incision, which goes down through the shoulders to the midpoint of the chest and down through the abdomen, which is how we get the organs out from the internal part of the body. His cranial cavity or his head was also open to facilitate moving, taking the brain out. So that cavity was already open, and there was a bag with the body that had the pieces of the organs within it.
The organs that had already been removed?
Yes.
Okay, and what, if anything, did you notice with regard to his back?
There was no significant injuries that I saw on his back at that time.
Well, with regard to the condition of the body when you saw it the first time? Had it already been
Oh, yes. Part of the initial autopsy was that there was also, when he removed the organs and he did the internal examination, he also opened the portions of the back to look at the muscle and the structures underneath the skin of the portions of the back and the upper buttocks.
And you weren't present when any of that occurred, correct?
No.
Okay, so can you describe for the jury then your examination of Brendan Creato, beginning with what, if any, findings you had during the external portion of your exam?
Well, he was a well-developed, well-nourished looking child. He was a healthy-looking child. Didn't appear to be malnourished or any type of medical problems going on as far as his physique. His height and weight were received from the first autopsy, and he was measured to be 40 inches, and we approximated his weight at that time to be 30 pounds, and he appeared consistent with his age. The scalp was atraumatic. There was no injuries to his scalp. He had medium-length brown hair. His irides were blue and his conjunctiva were glistening, meaning they were still shiny and white. There were no obvious signs of any injury to them. There was a small little pinpoint petechiae or a little blood spot that was found at a later examination underneath one of the lower eyelids, but I did not see that in my examination, and a single point like that is insignificant.
I'm sorry, can I stop you right there? I believe you said what you're describing to us right now, you described was it the irides?
Irides.
Okay, can you tell us what that is?
The irides is the colored portion of the eye. The pupil is the little black spot in the middle, which is where the light comes in. And the irides, or the iris in the single form, is the colored portion around the pupil.
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead. What did you do once you were done examining his eyes?
And then, basically work myself from the head working down, so I would examine his facial structures, palpating the bones, feeling for any fractures, looking for any signs of injury or disease, and continuing down the neck, also examining that externally, feeling for any crepitus or any irregularities you might feel in the neck structures, which sometimes you can get from different types of diseases or trauma.
Can you tell us what crepitus is?
Crepitus, it's a bubbly kind of feeling you would see. If air infiltrates underneath or gets underneath the skin surface, it makes like a little bubbling type of, almost like a sound that you would feel or hear when you palpate it or touch it.
Okay. And that was, so now you've checked out his his facial bones?
Yes.
And his Nasal, did you examine his nasal passages?
I did examine his nasal passages. They were patent, which means they were open. There was no blockages inside of them. I examined the mucosa on the inside, looking for any injuries or ulcerations that might be there, and there were none. I looked in his oral cavity, looked at the frenula, which is the little line which connects the lips to the back of your throat. The little lines there, those are called frenula. They can often be torn if there's any trauma to the mouth, but those were intact. And I did not myself observe any injuries in the mouth. His teeth were appropriate for age and they appeared in good repair. His ears were atraumatic, meaning there's no trauma to his ears, and his ear canals were patent and they appeared normal also.
And what do you mean when you say they were patent?
They were open, there were no blockages.
Okay, and what did you examine once you finished with his ears?
That's when I proceeded down the neck area again, feeling no crepitus, no masses. The neck had already been removed, so I wasn't really expecting to feel any bulges or anything like that in the neck area. I examined the neck organs later when I went through the organs that were removed, but the neck was normal. There was an indication of an abrasion on the side, but I'll go over the trauma at the end. I'm just going through the examination now. His thorax, which is his chest area, again, there was no crepitus or no bubbliness to any of his chest area. His breasts had no palpable masses. They were appropriate for age and for a child of his size and age. His abdomen was flat. There was no evidence of any masses in his abdomen. Again, the organs were removed, so it was flat because of that also. But there were no masses and there were no scars to his abdomen. His upper and lower extremities were also examined for any abnormalities. There were some injuries, which I'll describe together, but there were no abnormalities, meaning no missing digits, no fractures, no scars, nothing abnormal to the structure of his upper and lower extremities. His external genitalia was also examined. They were examined visually. There was no contusions, no bruising, nothing abnormal to his penis or his scrotum. His anus was also examined, and there was no signs of any trauma, bruising, or tearing to that. And then again, his back, as I said earlier, is already cut into by Dr. Feigen, looking for any bruising in the tissue underneath the skin that you might not be able to see. But other than that, I didn't observe any trauma to his back.
Okay. You indicated that you did see some evidence of injury. Could you describe the evidence of injury that you saw for us?
Yes, on the neck area, there was an area of an abrasion on one side of the neck, a small, maybe half an inch by eighth of an inch or a quarter inch abrasion on one side of the neck. There was what I describe as pressure abrasions or contact abrasions on the side of his head also, which was the side that was facing down where he was found on the side of the creek. There's an area of bruising or contusion or blood leakage under the skin over the clavicular area on the right shoulder, which is the clavicle, which is the collarbone. So there was an area of bruising over that on the side of on the right shoulder. And then there were areas of what I call like scratch type abrasions on the side of his abdomen and chest on the one side.
And how do you distinguish between a pressure abrasion and what you term as a scratch abrasion?
The scratches are more linear, which indicates some type of movement. If you've ever fallen down and scraped your knee or scraped your arm, you get like a linear kind of an abrasion or tearing of this or scraping of the skin, and that indicates there's movement going on. Whereas the abrasions seen on the side of the head were more from being pushed down on something as opposed to any type of movement causing linear or line-like abrasions.
And did you notice, make note of any contusions during your exam?
Yes, he had two areas of contusions. Contusions is a bruise or a black and blue. He had a small area of contusion on the back of his left arm. There's also another one on the right knee.
And do you recall, I don't have the pictures up, but do you recall in looking at them and viewing them yourself, having any idea with regard to whether they were fresh or older?
They did have a healing quality to them, meaning bruises go through different stages of healing. When you first get a bruise, it's more like a purple reddish color, then it starts turning brownish and greenish and slowly fades away to yellow. These were at a stage where they did not look fresh. They looked like they had some aging to them.
Was there any other evidence of injury that you noticed during your examination?
No.
Any of the injuries that you just described with regard to the superficial abrasions, the pressure abrasions, and the bruises that you noticed near his neck and on his knees and elbows, did any of those contribute to his death in any way?
No.
Once you completed your external examination, what was the next thing you did?
The next step was to examine the pieces of the organs that were removed from the first autopsy. It's a little more difficult doing a second autopsy because the organs aren't intact in one piece anymore. They've already been dissected and cut into. I was able to piece enough of them together and examine them grossly to determine that there was no signs of any trauma or any medical or disease type factors to any of the organs that I examined.
Okay, can you tell us what organs you did examine?
Yes, I examined the heart and the lungs from the chest cavity. I examined the thymus gland, which is a gland that sits up in the upper part of the chest in the child. I examined the throat area with the hyoid bone, the larynx, and the thyroid cartilage, and the thyroid, which is all in the upper part of the neck area. I examined the liver from the abdomen, both kidneys, the pancreas, the intestines, bladder, and I think that was all of it.
And when you examined all of those organs, did you see any evidence of disease or injury on any of them?
No.
Did you have an opportunity to examine the brain?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what condition was that in at the time when you examined it?
The brain had already been previously dissected, meaning it was already sliced into pieces.
Okay. And how does that affect your ability to examine it?
It's good for getting detailed examinations of the individual slices. It's not as good for getting a general feel for the whole brain in and of itself.
Okay. And have you had the opportunity to view photographs of the brain before it was removed and dissected?
Yes.
Okay. And what did you observe in the photos of the brain?
When I saw the photos of the brain as it was before it was removed from the skull itself, there was noted flattening of the gyri and compression of the sulci, which are areas of the brain. The gyri are the worm-like areas you see on the surface of the brain that raise up a little bit, cause like a little type of a bump to them. And the sulci are the little valleys in between those areas. So when the brain swells, those little valleys get compressed, and those little bumps on the top of the brain get pushed up against the skull so they get flattened out. And that's an indication of swelling of the brain.
And what can that be caused by?
There's numerous things that can be caused by tumors within the brain, which didn't happen in this case, but it's also a very non-specific finding. With any type of hypoxia or lack of oxygen going to the brain reacts in a way where it swells. And that's probably the most likely indication in this case of what the cause of that was.
During the course of your examination, was the spinal cord still contained within the body?
At the time I began my examination, yes. The back had been open, but the spinal cord was still in place.
Okay, and was the spinal cord removed during your examination?
Yes, it was.
And what's the purpose in doing that?
The purpose in this case, since basically had no anatomic cause of death to this point, we removed it just to be thorough and see if there's any trauma or anything unusual to the spinal cord itself.
Are you able to visualize it effectively when it's still inside the body?
No, the spinal cord actually runs through the vertebral column, which is a bony column which holds your back together. It runs through that, so the only way to see the spinal cord is to actually open up those bone plates.
And then remove it?
Yes.
At the time you examined it, did you notice any trauma or disease to the spinal cord?
No.
Doctor, did you have an opportunity to do an internal examination on the actual body itself?
Yes.
Okay, can you describe that for us?
Yes, all the organs were previously removed, so it was easier to see the internal structure pretty quickly. And the pleural cavity was examined, which is the area of the chest where the lungs would sit and the heart would sit. And in this case, Dr. Feigen had also removed the pleural lining, which is a membranous lining on the inside of the chest wall. And by removing that, you could see the bone structure a lot easier of the ribs. So that was previously removed, and there was no sign of any injury or trauma to the ribs or to the chest walls. The peritoneal cavity, which is the abdominal cavity where all the liver and the kidneys and the stomach and intestines, where all of those are contained, there was no trauma to those areas either. And the skull, once the brain is removed, the skull cavity can be examined, and you look at the base of the skull, and there were no signs of any trauma or injury or disease there.
if not on this day, at some point, to review some microscopic slides that were created in this case.
Yes, it did.
And when you're doing a microscopic examination, what are you looking for?
There's a lot of things you can see on the organs grossly, meaning with your naked eyes, that can indicate any injury or disease. But a lot of times there can be things going on a cellular level that the only way you can look at those is to take sections of those organs, get very thin slices of them, and look at them under the microscope. And that's what we did in this case, which is the microscopic examination, where we examined all the major organs of the body under the microscope to look at the cells to see if there's any signs of injury or disease that way.
And can you tell us again, I'm afraid I might have missed one. Which organs were examined?
During the microscopic?
Yes, during microscopic, my apologies.
There were sections of the brain, the heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidneys, the thymus, the intestines, I believe, and those are the major organs that you looked at on the microscope. We also took a section of the skin in the area where that one bruise was on the right shoulder.
When you reviewed those slides, did you notice any abnormalities on any of them? Not with regard to the bruise from the clavicle yet, but just with regard to the organs.
For all of the organs, there's no significant pathology, no abnormalities. The only significant finding was that in the lungs. In the lungs, there was some chronic inflammation that was found, which is basically inflammatory cells, which is your body's reaction when it gets sick. If you get like a cold or an infection, those cells come in and try to aid the body in healing. And so there was areas of chronic inflammation from those inflammatory cells.
Were you aware, or did you become aware at some point that Brendan Creato had been diagnosed with asthma?
Yes, it was.
Okay, and did his asthma have anything to do with those findings in the lungs?
No, these are different from that.
Okay, and can you explain to us how they're different?
Like I said, these are chronic inflammatory cells that the type you'd more typically see with an infection of some sort, either viral most likely, or sometimes a bacterial infection. Whereas the findings you would see in asthma, it's a different type of cell that accumulates there. It's called an eosinophil, which has a distinct look to it. They're very easy to identify. And those are more of a reactive type of a cell that you see in diseases like asthma, which is also called a reactive airway disease. So you would see those eosinophils. You would see mucus plugging, because you get a buildup of mucus from asthma. You would see thickening of an area of the bronchi, or which are air sacs, called thickening of the basement membrane, which is another finding you would see. That's just an area of the bronchi that you would look at for that. And there was no significant findings like that in this case.
And did you look in those areas to check for, did you say mucus plugs?
Yes.
Okay, did you look in those areas in the airway to check for mucus plugs?
Yes.
Okay, and mucus plugs, are they something you would be able to see with your bare eye as well as microscopically?
Yes, you can.
And you didn't see anything of that nature?
No.
Did you have an opportunity to review a microscopic slide that had been produced from a contusion that was on Brendan's right shoulder?
Yes, it did.
And what were your findings after reviewing? What were your findings after reviewing that slide?
Reviewing that slide revealed that there was fresh hemorrhage or bleeding into the tissue. There was no inflammatory cells. Like I said, inflammatory cells usually appear when the body's reacting to an injury of some sort or an infection. There were no inflammatory cells, just fresh hemorrhage.
And what does that indicate to you?
To me, that indicates that the injury occurred right around the time of death. It didn't have time, the body didn't have time to react to it.
Dr. Siebert, during the course of your entire investigation of body and the organs and the microscopic slides, did you ever see any signs of sexual abuse?
No.
Have you performed autopsies in cases where there's been sexual abuse?
Unfortunately, yes.
And what kind of trauma or injuries would you normally expect to see on the body of a child who had been sexually abused?
You generally would see things like contusions or bruises. You would see lacerations or tearing, particularly in the anal canal if it's a male child or even in a female child. So you would see tearing, you would see bruising. You could see abrasions, which is scraping of the skin surface, bite marks, often typical in sexual assaults.
And where would you expect to see bruising and scrapes? In what areas of the body?
You would see them around the anal area. You would see them on the penis or the scrotum. Bite marks, a lot of times you would see them on the buttocks or the legs. And there was none of that in this case.
So you did not perform any kind of a sex assault kit in this case, correct?
No,
And why is that?
there was no indication for one based on physical findings.
Okay, just a minute. Doctor, I want to ask you a question about attempting to ascertain the time of an individual's death based on stomach contents. Have you ever heard or read anything about that?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and is that if someone has something in their stomach, is that an accurate way to determine the time of death?
I wouldn't say it's accurate. It's a method that's often attempted, but I wouldn't call it very accurate.
What is it about stomach contents that keeps it from being an accurate way of making that determination?
These things with the stomach contents, first of all, it depends on the type of meal it is. If it's a very light meal versus a medium meal versus a heavy meal. If there's a lot of fats as opposed to a lot of easily digestible type of things that you're eating, that changes the transit time or how quickly the food gets out of your stomach. If you're on any types of medications or if there's any medical conditions you have, can either slow it down or accelerate it. So it can be looked at if you're looking over a long-term area or a long-term time period, but the plus or minus on either side is so great that it makes it not very accurate for a short amount of time.
Okay. And if, with the understanding that the information was that Brendan Creato was last seen alive by his father at 9:30 in the evening and he was found at 8:43 the following morning, is that a large enough window to attempt to make a more accurate determination with regard to time of death?
Based on the stomach contents, probably not.
Judge? Dr. Siebert, based on your observations during your postmortem examination, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask you another question. Were you, at the time when toxicological results were received, were you advised of the results?
Yes.
And what were the results of the toxicology?
That they were negative. Nothing was detected.
Okay, so based on your observations during the postmortem exam, the results of the toxicology test and the histological slides that you reviewed, as well as the investigation in this case. Did you form an opinion concerning the cause of death of Brendan Creato?
Yes, I did.
And do you hold that opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty?
Yes.
And can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what, in your opinion, caused Brendan Creato's death?
It was homicidal violence, not otherwise specified.
And can you explain that finding for us?
It's a difficult case because there's no clear-cut anatomic cause of death, but due to the circumstances and the way that the child was found, it appears that it's not a natural death. So therefore, there's only certain things that really could lead into that area without leaving any injuries, and but we don't really know particularly because obviously there was nothing found on the body, which is why the circumstances point towards something unnatural or homicidal, yet we don't know the exact cause. So that's what I mean by not otherwise specified. We don't know exactly what it was, but we know it wasn't natural.
And based on the evidence or lack of evidence, as you say, anatomically speaking, what possibilities are there with regard to how Brendan could have died?
In these type of cases, most of them fall into the areas of some type of an asphyxia or lack of oxygen getting into the body. It could be things like drownings, things like smotherings, any type of a mechanism that would prevent the body from either getting air into the body or from utilizing it on a cellular type of a level. So any lack of oxygen getting into the body.
Now, was this an official ruling with regard to the cause of death?
No.
Okay. And why was this not the official ruling?
The death certificate was signed by only one physician, and Dr. Feigen was the lead physician or doctor in this case, so he's the one that signed the death certificate.
And are you aware of what his ruling on the cause of death was?
Yes.
And it was, or tell us what it was.
His was homicidal violence, undetermined etiology, I believe was nothing crazy.
Okay, and is that essentially the same thing as homicidal violence, not otherwise specified?
Yes.
That's all I have, Dr. Siebert. Thank you.
Press application.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Doctor.
Good afternoon.
Doctor, in performing your autopsy and writing your report, you did an anatomical survey of the body, right?
Yes.
And you did the microscopic slides, right?
He took the microscopic slide.
So that's my question. You didn't recut the organs and take new sections of tissue or anything like that, right?
No,
You just used the ones that Dr. Feigen already did?
that's correct.
And since, for lack of a better way of putting it, this was Dr. Feigen's autopsy, you're coming in second, you didn't order the toxicology or anything like that, right?
No,
You didn't make the decision to do or not do a rape kit so much as it was already decided and you didn't decide to do on top of it, right?
I don't think that's a fair assessment. The point of being called in as a consultant is to give those opinions. So if I thought that it would be necessary to do it, I would have suggested to him to do it.
Your report, do you remember the date of it, sir?
The date it was finally signed, 12/15 of December 15th, 2015.
Building states did it 377?
You're looking for the date the amendment was signed?
No, the date that you actually wrote and signed your report. Not dated by your signature, but the top of the page says October 15, 2015.
Yes, that's
Is the day of
correct.
the autopsy, you wrote the report the same day?
Right.
That's my point is.
Yes.
You didn't change the death certificate of the official report. That was Dr. Feigen's.
Correct.
And that was done in December.
Correct.
But you did your report the day you did the autopsy, same day, fresh in mind,
Yes.
October 15th. Okay. Did you make any changes to it after you did it?
Well, other than what I observed on the 15th, the microscopics weren't in at that time, so I did have to wait for those to come back. So I don't know if you consider that an amendment, but that was maybe a week later.
Okay. Had you already put your opinion on there that it was homicidal violence of not otherwise specified?
No, at the time when I completed my part of the report, it was where it's listed here as pending.
That's on that first page, right?
Yes.
Doctor, I want to make sure I understand this. Cause and manner of death aren't yours to determine this, sir, right? That's Dr. Feigen's job here?
Well, it's mine to give you my opinion of it, but it's not my place to put it on the desk.
Okay. But where it says cause of death pending, manner of death pending investigation, you're saying that was what you would put down?
On the 15th, yes.
But then it says amended cause of death, homicidal violence not otherwise specified, amended manner of death, homicide, amendment signed by Dr. Feigen, that's the one in December.
Correct.
I just want to understand, was he changing your report?
No. But he actually did, because the cause of death is actually in my words, not his. Remember, he put undetermined etiology, and I put not otherwise specified, so that's my work.
Right, no, I get it. That's why I understand why there's no date indicating when you changed your report. Do you happen to know, on the top of your head, do you have private notes or anything like that, of when you went in and actually put homicidal violence not otherwise specified?
I would say the same day each signed the amendment, because that's when we decided that it was going to be finalized, and that's when I added mine to this page.
Okay, so from October 15th to December 15th, you did not have that in here?
No.
Okay.
This report does not become public record, it's not finalized until it's amended.
Okay. But you're just guessing that it was on the 15th because you didn't write that down. That's they filed the amendment to that certificate.
Right, so it would be within a couple of days of that.
Okay. Did you, when you did your autopsy, Dr. Fiden was there, right?
Yes,
At least one Camden County prosecutor detective, right?
yes,
Ms. Shaw was there, right?
correct,
This was 2 days after the initial autopsy?
yes.
And did you review any photographs of the scene or anything like that?
Yes, it did.
Did you review any police reports?
No,
So the facts, as you received them, did they come from Dr. Biden, from Ms. Shaw, from Detective Rummel? Do you remember who told you about what happened?
most of it probably came from Detective Rummel and Ms. Shaw.
They gave you the description of, for example, how far Brendan was from his house, right?
Yes,
They gave you the description of his socks, right?
I was actually able to see those. Actually, no, I didn't see those because they were gone by that time, but that was described to me by Dr. Fletcher.
You didn't go out to any scene or anything like that, right?
No,
You didn't go out where the boys found.
no.
Is there anything else other than what Ms. Shaw told you, what Detective Rummel told you, what Dr. Fiden told you, and what you saw when you conducted the autopsy that you used in making your determination?
No.
You indicated that Brendan appeared to be a healthy, well-nourished boy, correct?
Yes.
There were no signs of abuse, neglect, anything like that.
No.
And most of these bruises that you're talking about, you said they were non-specific. They weren't trauma that was related to his being killed, right?
Correct.
They were described as normal 3-year-old stuff. Fair.
That's fair, yes.
You're able to tell that these bruises are old, in fact, because of the color and the shape of them and how they, the life cycle of a bruise that you just gave us, right?
Yes.
How long does it take for a bruise to kind of go through that cycle?
Again, it's different variables depending on how old a person heals, what their nutritional status. If you appear to be a healthy kid, so bruises can take anywhere from several days up to maybe a week, week and a half.
So when you indicate that there's this bruise on the neck that seems to be relatively close in time to when he dies, you can't say if it's in like 5 minutes or an hour or 4 hours or 12 hours, right?
I would say it would have to be less than 4 hours because the body reacts pretty quickly and there were no inflammatory cells identified, the reactive cells in the skin, so I'd say it would be pretty recent, definitely less than 4 hours, probably within an hour.
And are you meaning to suggest then that you think that is related to his death, that bruise?
I don't know if I could say that. I mean, it occurred right around his time of death, so it's certainly possible that it is an indicator of what happened after his death. But I don't know if I can say that with any certainty.
You wouldn't say that to a reasonable degree of certainty?
Certainty, no.
And this is the same boy who has all these other bruises other places. It seems that he's a rough and tumble fellow, right?
Appears to be, yes.
Ms. Shaw went through some of the possibilities of what homicidal violence could be with you. And you essentially said probably some type of asphyxia, right?
Yes.
You agree with me there are accidental types of asphyxia, right?
Yes.
There's positional asphyxia that someone's stuffed in between cushions or something like that, right? That can happen.
Yes, again.
A person could get a bag over his head, that's why all the toys and games and everything you buy have big warnings on the bag, keep out of the reach of children, right?
Yes.
Someone get just something too big in his mouth and not be able to breathe around it, right?
Yes.
And that could come out after, right?
It can, yes.
And a person who's positioned funny could be moved, right?
Yes.
The bag can be taken off the head if the child did that accidentally, right?
Yes.
All of those things would be though accidental, not homicidal, right?
Yes.
And there's no such thing as accidental violence of unknown knowledge or otherwise unspecified, right?
No.
The types of asphyxia you're talking about, though, that they are opposite, those have some signs of them, right?
In certain cases, yes.
I understand not in every case, but certainly you're looking for them when you do this autopsy.
Yes.
And you've done other autopsies with intentional homicidal asphyxias, right?
Yes.
You've done smotherings,
Yes, I have.
strangulations,
Yes.
drownings,
Yes.
intentional.
Yes.
Because drownings can be accidental also. Tell us, please, some of the signs of the strangulation that you're looking for when you're conducting the murders.
Things like strangulation, either manual or with a ligature or a rope or something, you would look for some type of trauma in the neck structures. The way we look at it is we look again, we move the muscle, the skin of the neck to look at the muscle underneath. And usually you would see some type of hemorrhaging in the muscle in the anterior or underneath part of the neck. If the person is struggling, trying to get the person, if it's like say a manual strangulation, and trying to get the person to let go, it can be fingernail scrapes as you're trying to get that ligature or whatever instrument it is off of their neck. So it's just different types of hemorrhaging trauma to the neck we look for.
And do you see any of that when you pull the skin back?
No.
What about, well, let me ask you this, is that what Dr. Feige is describing when he says a laser dissection of the throat?
Yes, let's go through the individual layers of the muscle.
You didn't see anything there that indicated strangulation?
No.
For a smother, what would you look for there?
Smothering is, what you would try to look for is any type of abrasions or some type of injury to the face, the cheek, or nose area, where whatever was used to cover the mouth to prevent them from getting oxygen or getting airway. You would hopefully see some type of abrasions from that, but not always.
What about fibers or foreign bodies or anything like that in the nose or the nostrils or the sinuses?
It's possible, again, depending on what type of material was used, you might be able to see that, not always.
And certainly not in this case.
No.
What about drowning? What would be a sign of intentional drowning in an autopsy?
Depending on the person that's being drowned and how much they can resist, you might not see anything. Signs of an intentional drowning, again, if they're struggling and fighting back, you would see maybe some kind of injury from that. But otherwise, a drowning might not leave any injuries at all.
So, Doctor, and I mean this respectfully, you obviously made determinations in the past of manner of death, accidental manner of death, homicidal, both of which involve drownings, right?
Yes.
I don't believe that your testimony is if someone's drowned, there's no way to tell, right? That's not what you're saying.
No, not in every case.
Sure, but there's got to be some something that you're looking for. You're not telling the jury if you drown somebody and then move the body, nobody's going to know, right? That's not what you're saying.
The drownings, that's probably the closest we have to that. I mean, drownings generally are a diagnosis of exclusion, meaning the body's found in water and you can rule everything else out, that most likely was the drowning. Well, drownings don't leave a lot of signs.
What about water in the lungs?
Not specific. I mean, you could see in some drownings, there are drownings what we call dry drownings, where the glottis spasms and you don't get any water in at all. So it's not a very specific thing.
Well, water in the cranial sinus.
Again, that's also not specific. You would see it either like in the ethmoid or the paranasal sinuses. Sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't. There are other things that people look for, which are called little diatomes. Even that's not specific.
So, Doc, if I'm following everything you're saying so far, there are certain things that could mean asphyxia by strangulation or by smothering or by drowning. I don't mean in this specific case, but generally, you have to look at the circumstances to make a determination as to whether or not it's accidental or intentional.
Yes.
And in this case, the information that you used to ultimately determine that it was intentional is the information you got from Detective Rowe on the show.
Yes.
I asked Dr. Fagin yesterday if Brendan had been found at home on the couch, what he would have believed that the cause of death would have been. And he indicated a presumed cardiac arrhythmia. Have you heard of that?
I have.
Would you agree with that? That that would make sense?
In a child like this, I'd say no. I wouldn't agree with that.
What would you say if, sorry, you agree that, like Dr. Fagin, the location of Brendan is the main factor that makes this homicidal violence, right?
Yes.
Doctor, you're obviously familiar with SIDS.
Yes, I am.
That's for much younger children, right?
Yes.
Under the age of 1.
Typically, yes.
Brendan's it.
No.
And it could happen older, but I'm not trying to get you to say here that this could be SIDS, so you see where I'm going. Generally under 1, could be a little older.
That's right, yes.
There is, however, something called sudden unexplained death in childhood.
Yes.
Would you explain that to the jury, please?
That's, I'd say the best way to explain it would be a diagnosis of SIDS in older children. SIDS is a diagnosis where it's called sudden infant death syndrome, which you basically have a dead child under 1 year old. You have a thorough medical history, a thorough autopsy, and a thorough examination of the scene, and you come up with nothing, and it's usually termed as SIDS. Sudden unexplained death in children is basically just expanding the timeline for that. When you're dealing with older children, and you do those same things, the autopsy, the scene, the examination, the medical history, you still don't have a cause of death.
That's another diagnosis of exclusion?
Yes.
Okay. So, where we are now is homicidal violence of not otherwise specified as diagnosis of exclusion, right?
Yes.
Drowning is often a diagnosis of exclusion, right? And what we just described, I'll call it older kids SIDS, sudden, unexpected death in childhood, the diagnosis of exclusion.
Yes.
Among the non-specific findings that you addressed and Dr. Fagin addressed, is this flattening of the gyri?
Correct.
That would mean there was edema in the brain, right?
Yes.
Brain swelled,
Correct.
and as a result of that swelling, the curves are pressed in.
Yes.
And if I'm understanding your testimony, it's non-specific because while it could certainly be from asphyxia, it can be from a lot of different things, right?
Yes.
And you can't say in this case, well, I understand you're saying it seems to be from that, seems to be from some sort of asphyxia. You can't say that with certainty. You're giving your opinion on the homicidal violence, right?
That's correct.
Doctor, you ultimately reviewed the toxicology that came back that Dr. Fagin had in her work, right?
Yes.
But you didn't add to it or do anything different to Dr. Fagin, right?
Sure.
You did check for glucose, vitreous eye fluid or anything like that, did you?
No.
Did you review Brandon's pediatrician records?
I did not review them.
Do you know whether he was on any medication?
From what I recall, he was supposed to be on medication for his asthma.
Are you familiar with prednisone?
Yes.
It's a steroid.
Correct.
Prednisone has an effect where it can increase glucose levels, does it not?
They can, yes.
It can actually mimic diabetes in certain situations, right?
Yes.
That wasn't tested for you, was it?
Prednisone, no.
Was a spinal tap done?
No.
What could a spinal tap show?
It could show if there's any infection in the cerebral spinal fluid or in the brain cavity, but you can see that by taking out the brain. So it could show any type of lymphocytes maybe in the, again, leads more towards an infectious type of a cause. Don't really know what else it would be valuable for.
They're obviously done in autopsies, so not every autopsy, but they're done in autopsies, right?
They're pretty rare, usually only if you're looking for some type of an infective cause, if you want to get a culture or where they grow it to try to grow bacteria or cells. Those are the most of the time when you would do a spinal tap.
And cultures weren't done in this case, right?
No.
And to make sure I'm understanding right, when you're making your determination that there's no other anatomical cause or no sign of infection or anything like that, there was no spinal tap, there were no cultures. You're accounting for that and saying we didn't find any infection, right?
Right, which, if there was an infection, generally it would have been picked up with a microscopic examination also.
Generally,
Yeah.
not every time.
I guess there could be rare instances when it wouldn't, but you would usually see it visually, grossly when you do the autopsy, or you would pick it up microscopically.
So, if you had an unexplained death of an otherwise healthy 3-year-old, and you're trying to be thorough, maybe after that gross examination and the microscopic examination, it would make sense to really stop it.
That would be too late at that point.
Be too late because microscopic, you already done the microscopic examination?
Well, the microscopic examination takes several days to get the slides back. By that time, it would be too late to do cultures.
Okay. So if you have an unexplained death in an otherwise healthy 3-year-old, it may make sense to err on the side of caution and do the spinal tap because you don't know what's going to come out in the microscope.
I'd say the yield on that would be very minimal, because you're going to be viewing it grossly and you're going to be looking at the microscopic slides. So the chance of picking it up on a culture as opposed to physically seeing it with a microscope would be, I'd say, minimal.
So it's a matter of how much time can you put into every autopsy before you ultimately just are wasting it, right?
Yeah, I think you should put it that way, yeah. I mean, you have to know the yield you're going to get and what's going to be productive and what's not.
Is it fair to say that by the time you conducted your autopsy, that decision had already been made not to do any culture or any spinal tap, right?
Yes.
So this isn't on you. I don't mean to suggest that it is. But if a person's really going through being thorough, crossing T's, dotting I's, trying to find an actual explanation for an otherwise healthy 3-year-old's death, it may make sense to you.
It may in certain cases, but not all of them. I mean, most of the time, like I said, we're goal-directed in what we do to determine the cause and manner of death, and we have to do what's going to give us results.
Goal-directed suggests you already have a plan for what it is and you're trying to work toward it. Is that what you mean?
No, the goal is determining the cause and manner of death.
Okay.
So we do whatever we need to do to determine it.
Doing a spinal tap, doing cultures, you're telling me in some rare circumstances could help do that.
Yes.
It's just, you can't do it every time because those things are rare and it's a lot of time to be spent doing that when it may not yield an answer.
Yeah, that's right.
So you can't say in this case whether or not that would have yielded an answer, right?
I'd say based on the microscopics, it wouldn't have.
Right, but we've already discussed this now. Just because it's not there grossly, just because it's not there microscopically, that's why this test exists to take cerebral spinal fluid to do a culture, right?
Right.
I mean, doctor, I'm not being facetious here. Death of a 3-year-old is rare with no explanation, right?
Yeah.
Sudden, unexplained death in childhood, right?
Yes.
But these things happen.
Yes.
Like they happen enough that there's studies on them and things like that, right?
Yes.
So it's not so rare that it's not worth looking at. It's just a matter of division of labor and use of resources, right?
Yes.
Doctor, I want to talk to you a little bit about the conversation you had with Ms. Shire on direct examination about the time of death based on stomach contents. Are there ways to determine the time of death when you're conducting an autopsy?
There are three major things we look at, which is the rigor mortis, which is the stiffening of the body, it's called livor mortis, which is the settling of the blood in the body, and algor mortis, which is the body when it cools. Those are the three classic things we look at as a start to determine time of death.
And is that something that you'd be able to do 2 days later on the 15th?
No.
Okay. Is that something that could have been done on the 13th, the day that Dr. Fine first saw the body?
Yes.
And to your knowledge, did Dr. Fine do that?
I don't have his autopsy report in front of me. I don't know if he mentioned that or not.
Okay. But based on what you know from your investigation and the information you got, you could have made some determination about time of death using the rigor mortis, livor mortis, etc.
He could have, yes.
And are there any other ways that you know of to try to estimate the time of death? I realize it's not down to the minute, second.
Yeah, there are a whole host of ones but they're very non-specific, and they got a lot of variables to them, so they're not very accurate.
And as far as you know, were any of those tried?
No.
You discussed that there were no signs of trauma that suggested sexual abuse of you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
The trauma you described involved the anus and genitals that you said you looked for in these past autopsies that you've had where you're looking for signs of those things. Is that correct?
Yes.
You agree with me, doctor, that if someone performed oral sex on someone, that wouldn't necessarily be any trauma, right?
Correct.
And you wouldn't look to the genitals or the anus if someone forced themselves onto someone orally, right? If you were looking completely, you also look at his body mouth, right?
Yes.
And that wasn't there.
Well, I did look in his mouth. I didn't see any signs of any type of abuse as far as any abrasions or injury, but it might not necessarily be there.
Right, you agree with me. If someone performed oral sex on him, there wouldn't be any signs of trauma.
Not necessarily.
And if he were forced to perform oral sex on someone, that wouldn't be any signs necessarily.
Correct.
But if it left any DNA, that's something that you could get with a swab, right?
Yes.
And if there were any DNA in his mouth or his anus, it would just be a matter of a swab to get there, right?
Yes.
And that wasn't done because there were no signs in his genitals or anus?
That plus the body was found in water, which would wash away any of the evidence that you would be hopefully getting.
In his mouth?
Water, it actually silt and stuff in his mouth, which indicates there was water that was washing into his mouth.
We heard from a DNA expert earlier today who said that water doesn't always wash away DNA. You can actually check for it. You disagree with that?
But she says it when the spirit should be accurate.
Same thing rectally. You could have checked there with a swab, right?
Could have, yes.
But we just thought that wasn't appropriate here.
Right, based on it, there was no sign of any injury.
So this wasn't like a resources thing where the swab would be too much, you know, 2 swabs would be too much. This was just, we don't see any signs of that.
Yes.
Were you aware that he was found with his pants down?
I did see the pictures and they were rolled down a little bit, yes.
Even there though, you don't think it would be appropriate to err on the side of caution, take oral swabs, take like a swab?
Based on the findings of no injuries, like again, it's a yield thing, I don't think it would be beneficial.
But you do agree with me that there are numerous ways there could have been molestation that wouldn't show trauma, right?
Yes.
Doctor, who's the boss?
I report to the director of the health department.
You are an assistant medical examiner?
Yes.
Dr. Flight is the county medical examiner?
Yes.
So is he overseeing your work?
No. We actually both report to the director of the health department.
Okay, so who's in charge
Where?
of the medical office?
I'd say the head of the health department, the director of the health department.
Is he there every day?
Yes.
He runs,
It's actually, she,
she's in charge of the medical examiner's office, the health department, or both?
she's the director of the health department, which oversees the medical examiner's office.
But who oversees the medical examiner's office? Who's in charge at the medical examiner?
They're in the same building, so I would say her.
I'm not talking about geographically here, I'm not talking about who's in what physical room. Dr. Flanagan is in charge of the medical examiner's office.
As the county medical examiner, in that way, I'd say yes.
Why do I have to drag that here? That just doesn't sound
Council, let's
familiar.
not argue with it, please. Let's ask questions, please.
Dr. Flanagan is your boss, right?
I've never looked at him that way, he's never looked at me that way,
I understand that, but
because we share all the duties.
I get it, but
Okay.
he's the county medical examiner,
Yes,
and you're the associate, you're the assistant.
yes.
Dr. Siebert, you can't tell us where Brendan died of,
No,
and you can't tell us specifically how he died. And to the extent that you believe that this is a homicide, you certainly can't tell us who did it, right?
correct.
Thank you, Dr. I have no other questions.
Redirect counsel.
Judge, I do have redirect. Dr. Siebert, you testified that you did not have an opportunity to see the socks that Brendan was wearing on his feet because they are no longer at the medical examiner's office when you performed your examination. Is that correct?
Yes,
Did you have an opportunity to observe them in the photographs that you reviewed?
yes, I did.
And they were clean, correct?
Yes,
Okay. You were also asked questions about accidental asphyxia, and I believe the example Mr. Fushino used with regard to positional asphyxia. He indicated that an example of that would be someone suffocating in between two cushions, correct?
yes.
If that was the case, where would you expect the body to be located in that case?
Unless the body can move to be between the cushions.
Mr. Fushino asked you a number of questions with regard to your determination between making a finding that something was accidental or whether it was intentional, in other words, homicidal. And I believe your answer was that it would depend on the circumstances of the case, correct?
Yes.
And what circumstances in this case led you to conclude that this was in fact homicidal violence?
The fact that where Brendan's body was found is based on the situation of the body, the clothing on the body. It doesn't appear that he would have been able to get to that place on his own power.
In cases, I wrote the initials down, SUDC, it says SIDS in older children. Can't remember what the U stands for. A diagnosis where it is SIDS but it is in an older child. You indicated that that was a diagnosis of exclusion, correct?
Yes.
When a diagnosis like that is made, again, where would that child typically be found?
Usually at their home, in bed, or...
In bed in the morning, correct? Like SIDS babies are?
Yes.
With regard to the toxicology, you answered some questions with regard to whether or not you yourself requested additional testing. Do you recall those questions?
Yes, I do.
I want to ask you generally about having toxicology testing done for poisons. If you want to have testing done for that, what information do you need to have?
Poisons are like typical drugs where you can do like a drug panel, and like this classes of drugs on benzodiazepines, which you pick up all benzodiazepines or all opiates and things like that. With poisons, you have to have a fairly good indication of what particular poison you're looking for, because the tests of those are more specific.
You answered a number of questions about doing a spinal tap in cultures with an eye towards looking for an infection. Is that correct?
Yes.
If Brendan was suffering from some infection that actually ended up impacting his death in any way, Would you expect him to have other symptoms or a history of illness that he wasn't well?
He could, yes.
And again, those type of infections that would show up in a culture or spinal tap, you would normally expect to see that in microscopic slides, correct?
Yes.
You also asked some questions about rigor mortis, livor mortis, and which is the blood settling, of course. How can that information be used to determine time of death?
Take, for example, the rigor mortis, which is the stiffening of the body. It takes time for that to happen. It lasts a certain amount of time and then it dissipates or goes away. So by knowing those time frames and you compare that to the settling of the blood, again, that takes a certain amount of time to start to appear, and then it becomes fixed or it doesn't move after a certain amount of time. And then with the cooling of the body, generally the body cools based on the temperature of the environment it's in and what type of the temperatures it's exposed to. So when you look at the three of those and you see where everything overlaps, that can sometimes give you a general indication of when the body might have died.
Okay, and approximately when does rigor start to set in? How long does that take?
It begins just pretty much immediately. It starts at all muscles at the same time, so you'll start to see it in the smaller muscles first, and then it'll appear in the larger muscles. And it takes probably about 8 to 12 hours for it to become fully set.
And can that be affected by environmental conditions?
Yes, it can.
Would one possible environmental condition be, for instance, being placed in cold water?
Yes.
Another potential condition be being outside in pajamas when it's cold out, when it's chilly?
Yes.
And then, if I understood you correctly, at some point, the rigor begins to dissipate and the body relaxes again. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
And approximately how long does that take once full rigor is set in?
When rigor sets in and it's what we call full, it lasts for about 8 to 12 hours and then it starts to dissipate. So you're looking at right around 24 hours.
So by the time you had an opportunity to see Brandon, which was 3 days after he was discovered in the creek, it had fully dissipated?
Yes.
Can you give us an idea of taking environmental factors into consideration when rigor mortis or livor mortis is used to attempt to determine the time of death? How accurate can that be? Like, can you give us a window?
Generally using those three factors, I'd say within about 5 hours would be the most accurate you can get. Like if you could examine the body within 5 hours of its time of death, or what you think is its time of death, that could give you a good ballpark of you can count back to when it occurred. Once you get up around the 8 or 10 hour range, then using those three factors is not very accurate. We're talking plus or minus hours.
Sorry, Judge, just a moment. Siebert, the slides that you examined, did they appear to be properly made, et cetera? Like, were they to your satisfaction as would be in any normal autopsy?
Yes.
Okay. And did you, during the course of your examination, did you see any signs or symptoms anatomically on Brandon that perhaps there would be an issue with regard to poison?
No.
And normally, would you expect to see some physical symptoms in a case of poisoning?
Yes, you normally would.
And what are some examples of what you might have seen?
Depends on whether it's an acute poisoning versus a chronic poisoning. Chronic poisoning is when somebody's given the poison over time. You would see a lot more different types of things in the organ depending on the type of poison. You can see microscopic changes. Acute poisonings, if it's like you see spine novels where they use like nerve agents, I mean that's pretty acute, but you might not see a lot of symptoms from that. But most of the more common poisonings, household poisonings, you'd see usually some type of it's caustic, you'd see burns in the mouth or throat, or you can see other physical symptoms depending on what the agent was that they ingested.
Mr. Cascino asked you if you had requested that the glucose be tested in the toxicology. Do you recall that question?
Yes, sir.
I believe he also asked you about the examination for the vitreous of the eye.
Yes.
Is there anything that comes to your mind that would be significant in having those tests done in this case, or had you done them what they might be indicative of?
Going up, and again, they voted in the House, however.
Thank you, Dr. Siebert.
Dr. Siebert, Ms. Shaw asked you about poisoning. He said that there are a lot of external signs for a lot of different poisons, things that would have been obvious to you, right?
Yes.
But there certainly are poisons that wouldn't be that would be obvious to you.
Sure.
And the same thing with the infection. I asked you, would you expect usually to see something either microscopically or grossly, and you usually do, right?
Yes.
But sometimes you don't, right?
Correct.
And that's why there's spinal taps and culture, right?
Yes.
This issue with is it, am I understanding correctly that it is the location of the body that leads to your saying homicide?
In this case, yes.
You have obviously, I forget you said it, and I didn't write it down. How many autopsies have you done?
Close to 5,000.
5,000. In 5,000 autopsies, obviously you've seen situations where a body has been removed after death, probably hundreds of times, right?
Close to that, yes.
Okay. So, you agree with me that this case, and I realize it was pretty clinical, this case could just as easily be a situation where there's some accidental death or other unexplained death, and then the body's just moved, right?
It's possible, yes.
Okay. That wouldn't necessarily be a homicide, right?
Depending on the circumstance, depending on how the death occurred, no.
But from what you were able to observe, the body, microscope, tops, all that, you wouldn't be able to say unless you knew whether or not it was white, right?
Correct.
So if this were a situation where it's somebody dead or somebody unintentional, it's not a homicide, right?
It can be just based on that location also. In that case, I might go with undetermined. Because you just don't know.
Literally, I just don't know. Not probably a homicide, but I don't know, just a complete I don't know, right? Okay. So, the last thing I want to discuss is this, Ms. Shaw asked you about rigor. It's a process, right?
Yes.
From the time of death, as it goes on, the body gets stiffer,
Yes, correct.
and then it stays stiff for a while,
Correct.
and then it loses stiffness over time.
Correct.
Okay, so you don't know, because you weren't there on the 13th, obviously nobody asked you to be, what level of stiffness the body had when it got to the hospital for the autopsy, right?
No, I don't.
You don't know how far along it was now,
No.
and there's no way for you to know.
No.
So besides not being able to tell us how, where, or who, you also can't say when.
Fair. Okay.
Thank you, Doctor, I appreciate it.
Members of members of the jury, we reached a point today where we are finished. We're not sure how long this will take. No other witnesses are lined up. The good news is we're going over that. I've made schedules for you as you asked, reflecting the days we will be here, which are the days that don't have the access cross through. Again, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, possibly to the end of the month. Next week, unfortunately, we only have one day. The week after that, though, we're now back to three full weeks. All right? They're going to get a copy of the tribute. So everybody has a copy. Again, we're not going to see each other for some time. Over the weekend, we won't get back together again until Tuesday, which would be May 9th. Remember my admonition, and it becomes even more important the longer we're away. Again, curiosity causes people sometimes to want to look something up, to want to talk to somebody else about it. You can't do that. At the end of the day, all the jurors have to do the same testimony. You can't Google any of the concepts or terms you've heard. Again, there's media coverage in this matter. Obviously, we're not to look at any or to listen to any of the media coverage. Again, the jurors have to give the same testimony from this witness stand at the end of the day. With that, I wish everyone, apparently the weather's not, tomorrow's not going to be too good. It's a good day to stay in. Everybody, a good weekend. I will see everybody back Tuesday, the 9th at 9 o'clock.
Please rise.